Mabuhay! Good day, grade 10 students. While you are safe at home, learning in a new normal, and staying healthy every day, let's have a fun-filled discussion today. Get ready and we will learn and discover the health-related laws today. I am your teacher, Sir Alfred Santos, and for a moment, we will roam around our lesson 2 in health, focusing the related laws in its impact to current health trends, issues, and concerns. Isn't it exciting? Of course it is. But before we move on, make sure that everything is ready. Prepare your module, notebook, and pen all throughout the conversation so that you may take down notes, learning, as well as questions or clarifications. This lesson will help you to understand how the different policies that embody your rights as a citizen in our country. It will also help you understand how the government works with various institutions to address issues and concerns. Before we go further, let me remind you with our online etiquette. First, come on time at the scheduled time. Find a quiet place where you can concentrate from your online class free from distraction. Prepare the needed materials like paper and pen, gadgets or cell phone, and a steady internet connection. Maintain respect in speaking, writing, and doing, including your appearance. Be part of the class, participate during discussion, and create a dynamic atmosphere with the class. I hope everyone will be guided by the rules for us to maintain order during our session. Now, allow me to present to you the competencies for today's lesson. At the end of the lesson, you are expected to critically analyze the impact of current health trends, issues, and concerns. Recommends ways of managing health issues, trends, and concerns. Before we proceed to our lesson, let us first review what you have learned from the previous topics. Let's get it on. Let us read the direction. Identify the following health law according to its policy. I'll give you 5 seconds to answer its questions. Let's begin. 1. Provides for the inclusion of environmental education programs in various national institutions. 2. Supervises the legal production of cigarettes in the country. 3. Provides assistance for the prevention and control of AIDS. 4. Provides for the regulation of products and services being sold and offered in the country. 5. Describe the blood donation program in the country. 6. Prohibits physical and emotional harm and abuse as initiation to a certain social group. 7. Provides for the regulation of narcotic and other related substances being sold or imported in the country. 8. Identifies scientifically proven herbs as medicinal plants. 9. Penalizes vehicles users who will not wear safety belts while on the road. 10. Provides for maternal and child health care family planning, and responsible parenthood. Now, let us check your answer. Did you get all the answers correctly? Very good. Today, we're going to analyze the impact of current health trends, issues, and concerns, and recommend ways of managing these health issues, trends, and concerns. Law is an important discipline within public health. Legal powers, duties, and restraints structure the mission of public health agencies and shape how it is carried out. Law is a prominent intervention tool to achieve particular public health goals. Laws and their implementation also have important unintended effects, both positive and negative, on population health. Adolescents in the Philippines face many legal, social, and political barriers to access sexual and reproductive health services, putting them at higher risk of unplanned pregnancy, abortion, sexually transmitted infections, and HIV, and other health and development problems. The Philippine Congress enacted Republic Act No. 10354 on Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health on December 18, 2012. After decades of what can only be described as bitter public controversy and political wrangling, 3 days later, it was signed into law by the President of the Philippines, commonly known as Reproductive Health Law. Its implementing rules and regulations were due to come into effect on March 31, 2013. It has been argued that not having a reproductive health law is a cruel to the poor. The poor are miserable because, among other reasons, they have so many children. Providing reproductive knowledge and information through government intervention is the humane thing to do. It can help the poor escape the vicious cycle of poverty by giving them options on how to manage their sexual lives, plan their families, and control their procreative activities. The phrase reproductive rights includes the idea of being able to make reproductive decisions free from discrimination, coercion, or violence. Overpopulation is one of the challenges faced by the Philippines. In response, the government passed the Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health Act of 2012, or commonly known as RH Law. It is said that the law benefits the individual, in which it required all public hospitals to provide family planning method, to modern contraceptive, to natural family planning. It is also required all public to provide sexuality education, adolescents, and to private schools. They have this option to adopt the module of department education. And in this sense, the importance of law is to stop the so-called unwanted pregnancies among adolescents. Because in our country, the rate of adolescent pregnancy is increasing. It also includes sexuality education in values formation, children and women's rights, population and development, responsible relationship, family planning, STI, HIV, and AIDS. Next is the Tobacco Regulation Act. Principal sponsor of RA 9211 is the former Department of Health Secretary and former Senator Juan Flavier, and the co-author is Senator Lauren Legarda, and it was signed by former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo in June 2002. Tobacco smoking in the Philippines affects a sizable minority of the population. According to the 2009 survey conducted under the auspices of the Philippines Department of Health, Philippine Statistics Authority, and the World Health Organization for Disease Control and Prevention, 28.3% of the population are current tobacco smokers. This figure represents 17.3 million of 61.3 million adult Filipinos. The Philippines was the 15th largest consumer of tobacco in the world in 2002 and currently has one of the highest smoking rates in Asia. It is home to several major cigarette and cigar manufacturers, including the owned by Philip Morris International. The Philippines ranked second in number of smokers and has the highest number of female smokers in the 10th member association Southeast Asian nations. The World Health Organization estimates that 10 Filipinos die every hour due to cancer, stroke, lung and heart diseases, and other diseases brought by cigarette smoking. As a recent status reported, 240 Filipinos died due to tobacco-related diseases. In order to promote a healthful environment, the Act absolutely bans smoking in public places, most especially in centers of youth, activities, elevators, and stairwells. Fire hazardous places like gasoline stations, no smoking in public and private places that refers to hospitals, medical clinics, schools, public transportations, offices, recreational places, shopping malls, movie houses, hotels and restaurants, and also food preparation areas. In this light, a designated smoking and non-smoking areas should be utilized. The Act also restricts access to sale of tobacco products to minors. Tobacco may not be put in vending machine unless it verifies age and may not be sold within 100 meters of a school. Should tobacco be sold with proper signages that indicators target consumers? When it comes to advertising and promotion, the Act provisions the printing of warnings on cigarette packs in either Filipino or English. In addition, health warnings should also be included. Lastly, the government should provide programs and projects for those who shall be affected by the passing of this Act. One example of which are the tobacco growers. The Act provisions the establishment of cooperative and assistance program for the said people. Republic Act Number 9211, otherwise known as the Tobacco Regulation Act of 2003, makes it unlawful for any person under the age of 18 years to purchase, sell, or smoke tobacco products. Yet, a survey conducted by the Department of Health revealed that children as young as 5 years old are already starting to smoke. The Tobacco Regulation Act also implements certain restrictions and bans on tobacco-related advertisements, endorsements, sponsorship, and packaging. On May 16, 2017, President Rodrigo Duterte issued Executive Order 26 reinforcing the tobacco regulation law. Smoking is truly dangerous to everyone's health, and the Tobacco Regulation of 2002 is indeed a big help to protect the health of the citizen. Abide it, and let's live a peaceful and healthy life. And say no to smoking. Let's proceed to the Dangerous Drug Act of 2000. One of the Philippines' main weapons against legal drugs, yet Republic Act 9165 or the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002 under RA 9165 mandates the government to pursue an intensive and unrelenting campaign against the trafficking and use of dangerous drugs and other similar substances. By virtue of the Comprehensive Dangerous Drug Act of 2002, the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, or PDEA, was created for the efficient and effective law enforcement of all the provisions on dangerous drugs and/or precursors and essential chemicals as provided in the Republic Act. The network of anti-drug advocates and warriors also continued to grow through the flagship program of the board, the Barkada Contra Droga, or Peer Group Against Drugs. Barkada Contra Droga is a peer-based program designed as a preventive education and information strategy to counter the dangers and disastrous effects of drug abuse. It aims to empower individuals to be catalysts within their peer groups in advocating healthy, drug-free lifestyles through involvement in various wholesome activities. More and more, Filipinos are tapped as potent allies in the anti-drug campaign, including the Dangerous Drug Board launch, Oplan Iwas Droga, which has become the national flagship program on drug abuse prevention, where a mascot was created to stand as an icon or representation of the program named Kid Listo. KID being an acronym for Kalaban ng Illegal na Droga, a citizens' movements against drugs dubbed as Mamamayan Ayaw sa Droga or MAD, also gained popularity during the latter part of the decade. This movement was a product of the collaboration of agencies such as the Department of Interior and Local Government, Philippine National Police, National Bureau of Investigation, Bureau of Immigration, National Prosecution Service, Bureau of Customs, and the Dangerous Drugs Board that comprise the National Drug Law Enforcement and Prevention Coordinating Center. Created by virtue of Executive Order Number 61 in January 1991. Under the administration of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, drug prevention and control has become a top priority of the government. The anti-drug campaign has become enhanced and strengthened through the collaboration of national government agencies as well as the support of non-government organizations, faith-based groups, and the other private sector. Several policies have been instituted under this administration, including the establishment of community-based treatment and rehabilitation programs and services by local government units and the institutionalization of drug-free workplace policies in all government offices, including the conduct of authorized drug testing for elective local officials and appointed public officers. This regulation aims to promote the establishment and institutionalization of drug-free workplace policies in all government agencies and ensure that all public officers, both elective and appointed, remain drug-free through the conduct of authorized drug testing pursuant to the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002 or Republic Act 9165. With this, the public will be assured of effective and efficient service from government workers who are free from the influence and ill effects of illegal drugs. During this administration, the National Plan of Action Against Drugs was revisited and a new frame of action was established, known as the Philippine Anti-Illegal Drugs Strategy or the PADS, which has been institutionalized by virtue of Executive Order Number 66 and signed by President Duterte on October 29, 2018. The plan of action sets our goal in creating drug-free communities by 2022. Next is Consumer Act of the Philippines. The consumer is the one who assumes to be treated like a king as they bring business to the seller. Previously, consumer was asked to beware, but these days, fingers have been pointed to seller. Let seller beware as due to policies introduced government laws, consumer protection, NGO, and the increased competition in the market. When you go shopping, you have some reasonable expectations about your experience. You expect to be treated fairly and honestly, and that what you pay for is what you will receive. Many of these basic rights are protected by a type of law known as consumer law, which is designed to protect the consumer from being defrauded. Unfortunately, there are occasionally brands and stores who will still seek to take advantage of customers. So, it is important to know how to protect yourself. Here are some important things to understand about consumer law. Consumer law helps us to make sure that customers are aware of what they are buying, such as the ingredients in food, that advertising is fair and does not mislead, that debt collection is fair, and nearly every step in the buying and selling of goods is ordered towards creating a level playing field. Consumer Act of the Philippines provides protection to consumers against hazards to health and safety and deceptive, unfair and unconscionable sales acts and practices. Why do need to be protected? There are numbers of products in the market which are injurious to health of consumer. Adulteration, false weights, monopoly, and unfair trade practice are some of the issues that need to be tackled and are to be addressed to protect the consumers against it. Consumer complaints. Consumer complaints are the first step to redressal that the customer takes in the process of consumer protection. Hence, this is the most important step that the businesses need to handle with extreme care and dexterity. And in the times of the internet consumer complaints and feedback has more power than ever. Consumer complaints can actually help an organization to improve their products and services. It is a great form of feedback. It gives you a very fair measure of customer satisfaction. And if consumer complaints are dealt with swiftly, it actually helps with consumer retention and improves the goodwill of company. So, instead of treating consumer complaints as a hindrance or a headache, organizations can treat it as a way to bring about improvement and grow their consumer base. Now, try to look at these pictures. Is this a serious problem? With exponential growth in population, more resources are being demanded and supplied to the people. However, people do not manage these resources properly. Thus, pollution arises. That is why the government mandated the Republic Act number 9512 or the National Environmental Education Act of 2008. But before we proceed the discussion on the impact of this law, let me invite you to look around to your environment. Look around your barangay, your municipalities and cities, provinces, and you will find pollution everywhere. We have polluted our air. We have polluted our waters, our land. Mother Nature coping and drown. We experience now more frequent typhoon, which destroys life, families, cities, and municipalities. We are also experiencing nowadays diseases more frequently, such dengue, measles, and diseases that have no cure Perhaps it is time to pause and think about what we can do in order to arrest this problem and to order for us to create an environment that is conducive to living, to education, conducive to human being. This act provides for the promotion of environmental awareness through environmental education, which shall encompass environmental concepts and principles, environmental laws, the state of international and local environment, local best practices, the threats of the responsibility of the citizenry to the environment, and the value of conservation, protection and rehabilitation of natural resources and the environment. Environmental problems that the country is facing include pollution, illegal mining and logging, deforestation, dynamite fishing, landslide, coastal erosion, wildlife extinction, global warming, and climate change. Traditional and Alternative Medical Act of 1997. Long before we learned about modern medicine, our ancestors have already designed tools and means to aid their sick people and have unlocked and deciphered the healing powers of the plants and herbs that surround them. From simple tapal, using leaves of tuba to hilot, it cannot be denied that Pinoys are accustomed to traditional and alternative medicine. In places where there are no doctors, most people rely on their alternative medicine healers for immediate health solutions. Filipino traditional medicine takes place in remote areas of the country and even in big cities, whose traditional beliefs upon the curative proportion of traditional medicine remains intact to a great extent. And the reason is simple: medical cost of the modern medicine and hospitalization. However, the Philippine traditional medicine is rooted from various types of beliefs like religion, magic, superstition, mysticism, folklores, trust on herbs, and Western medicine. They have all this been mixed up and used as a sound and effective cure for any type of illnesses, ailment, disorder, infection, and traditional Filipino medicine comes in very handy to at least momentarily relieve or even get rid of the type of affliction anyone could be suffering from at the moment. It's a common practice for Filipinos, whether one is in the country itself or in a foreign country. Philippine traditional medicine takes an active part in the Filipinos' way of life when we talk about easing, curing, or mitigating the pain or sickness a Filipino is suffering from. There are a number of traditional medicine practitioners in the Philippines and even abroad, and their presence is well noted among the town people and sometimes in the big cities as well, like the manghihilot, albularyo, tawas o mangtatawas, and faith healers, in which at the present time they are now on the cities giving such services. In 1992, in the Philippines, the Department of Health, through its former Secretary Juan M. Flavier, launched the Traditional Medicine Program, which aimed to promote an effective and safe use of traditional medicine. Then, President Fidel B. Ramos, seeing the importance of the Traditional Medicine Program, and signed into law under the Republic Act 8423, otherwise known as the Traditional and Alternative Medicine Act, or the TAMA of 1997. That gave rise to the creation of Philippine Institute of Traditional and Alternative Healthcare, or the PITAC, which is tasked to promote and advocate the use of traditional and alternative healthcare modalities through scientific research and product development to the point that the Department of Health has endorsed 10 medicinal plants to be used as herbal medicine in Philippines due to its health benefits. The Philippines continues to remain traditional in more ways than one at a time. These traditional medical practices could be as effective as the modern-day medical practices. However, what counts most is the belief that an individual professes in the effectiveness of these practices, which are somewhat based on religion, the occult, the supernatural, or the divine, to which the Western world has a lot more to oppose than approve or support. Everything depends on how a person's level of indulgence and belief to profess to these types of medical practices. But what could be said is that we continue to live in this world which remains inundated with mysteries upon mysteries. Philippine AIDS Prevention and Control Act of 1998. The Philippines is facing one of the fastest growing epidemic of human immunodeficiency virus or HIV in the Asia-Pacific region. According to official statistics, HIV prevalence among men who have sex with men has increased tenfold in the last 5 years under the Republic Act number 11166, otherwise known as the Philippine HIV and AIDS Policy Act, was approved by the Philippine President on December 20, 2018. The Philippine HIV and AIDS Policy Act became effective on January 25, 2019. Philippine HIV and AIDS Policy Act repealed its predecessor, Republic Act number 8504, otherwise known as the Philippine AIDS Prevention and Control Act of 1998. What's your impression about the general situation of HIV prevention for girls and young women in the Philippines? Are things getting better or worse? Our situation used to be considered or described as low and slow. That is according to the documented cases of HIV and AIDS. Now, it has been called hidden and growing. I would suppose it is not as worse as the situation of our Asian neighbors. But the fact that there is an increase would mean it's worsening because of women's and girls' vulnerability. It is also getting worse even for all young persons in general. On October 3, 2019, the implementing rules and regulations of the Philippine HIV and AIDS Policy Act became effective. Although the IRR basically reiterates the provisions of the Philippine HIV and AIDS Policy Act, employers should nevertheless be aware of the potential employment implications of the recent regulation. Under the Philippine HIV and AIDS Policy Act, all private employers and employees shall be regularly provided with standardized basic information and instruction of HIV and AIDS, including topics on confidentiality in the workplace and reduction or elimination of stigma and discrimination. Does the current National AIDS Plan address the full continuum of HIV/AIDS strategies, including prevention, care, support, and treatment? The fourth AIDS Medium-Term Plan 2005-2010 addresses the following: policy guidelines on HIV/AIDS prevention control, policy strategies for STD, HIV/AIDS in the workplace, integration of HIV/AIDS education in all schools nationwide, guidelines on the entry of people with HIV/AIDS to the Philippines, policy guidelines on HIV and AIDS testing among children, and memorandum circular enjoining all local government units to implement RA 8504. Prevention includes the following components: information, education, and communication. Includes integration of HIV/AIDS into the elementary, secondary, and vocational curricula is continuously being pursued, with teaching modules being revised to be life skill based. This also targets employers, labor groups, folks, drivers, men and women in uniform, human resources groups, media, legislators, parent-teachers associations, and in-school youth. Advocacy, including a media manual for HIV/AIDS reporting and popularizing the IRR of RA 8504 in 2001. Training of service providers, labor sectors, men and women in uniform, Department of Education, Department of Social Welfare and Development, peer facilitators, overseas Filipino workers, etc. Care and support services have been extended. Other institutions offering support services include the following: Pinoy Plus Association Incorporation, Remedios AIDS Foundation, Positive Action Foundation Philippines Incorporation, and Bahay Lingap, halfway home for HIV-positive individuals. National Blood Services Act. Does blood donating blood lower your risk of heart disease? There is no end to the benefits of donating blood for those who need it. According to the American Red Cross, one donation can save as many as 3 lives. Donating blood has benefits for your emotional and physical health, according to a report by the Mental Health Foundation. Helping others can reduce stress. A 2017 study suggests that regular blood donation is associated with increased risk of heart disease, possibly due to unfavorably cholesterol levels. However, donating blood regularly may lower iron stores, according to a 2013 study. This may reduce the risk of heart attack. High body iron stores are believed to increase the risk of heart attack. Blood donation is safe for healthy adults. There's no risk of blood donation contracting disease. New sterile equipment is used for donor. Blood is second liquid needed for life after water. Every day, thousands die due to unavailability of blood. Blood is the cheapest way you can save someone's life. The blood worth more than any other charity you do. The need for blood is great on any given day. More than 2,000 of blood units are transfused to patients in our country. Some may need blood during surgery, while others depend on it after an accident or because they have a disease that requires blood components. Some of the risk of blood donation, the risk to blood transfusion. There are some people have fear of needles, and this prevents them from donating blood. One thing is clear: donating blood has a benefits to the donor as well as the recipients. So if you want to pick up a healthy habit, head over to local blood centers and give the gift of life. Seatbelts Use Act of 1999. Due to increasing motorization and urbanization in the Philippines, the country faces growing traffic and road safety issues. Motorized 2- and 3-wheelers now comprise of over 555 of the country's registered vehicles, with riders, motorcycles experiencing the greatest incidence of road traffic crashes and injuries. A comprehensive set of safety laws are in effect in the Philippines, which include drink driving and seatbelt laws. However, enforcement of the measures range from extremely poor to moderate. Thus, the road traffic crashes and continue to have a considerable impact on the country's GDP, with estimated 2.6% lost every year. The seatbelt is the single most effective feature in a vehicle to reduce the severity of injury to the vehicle occupants that results from road traffic crashes. Failure to seat belts is a major risk factor road traffic deaths and injuries among vehicle occupants. Passengers who do not wear seat belts and have a frontal crash are most likely to suffer a head injury. Seatbelt law is the most violated road rule in the Philippines. Anti-Child Pornography Act of 2009. In relation to cybercrime, child pornography has become a pressing concern of this generation, where some of our children are abused by means of using these devices and gadgets or computer-generated, where these children crafted images or graphics and in any other means of child engagement. Save the Children Philippines has raised concern that more children are at risk from online sexual abuse and exploitation amid the COVID-19 pandemic as families resort to easy money due to deepening poverty, while children are still not allowed to leave homes. The Department of Social Welfare and Development has vowed to strengthen its efforts against child pornography as reports showed in increase in transactions supposedly related to such illicit activities. The DSW said that as head of the Interagency Council Against Child Pornography had started working closely with law enforcement agencies to ensure that victims of child pornography could be rescued and perpetrators arrested. Child pornography is a significant threat and is constantly increasing due to the worsening poverty of the Philippines. This hassled the Philippines to become a global epicenter of live-stream sexual abuse of children. The Anti-Money Laundering Council conducted a study on child pornography in the Philippines in February 2019. According to a study conducted by a private sector, there is a prevalence of such suspicious transaction reports recorded from January 20 to June 2020. This study updates the findings in some suspicious transactions and determines new trends in child pornography. Child pornography in the Philippines is predominantly cross-border in nature. But localized setting is also evident because of the domestic remittances related to child pornography. With the team Bagong Normal, Ligtas na Internet for All, the annual Safer Internet Day for Children in the Philippines calls on public and private stakeholders to join the campaign in making the Internet a safer and better place for all, especially for the children and young people. Now, let us proceed to short assessment. Grab your pen and paper and answer the following question. Direction. Identify whether each claim is true or false. Now, let us check your answer. 1, true. 2, false. 3, true. 4, true. 5, false. Did you get all the answers correctly? Excellent. Well, let's conclude our lesson for today. Once again, this is Sir Alfred Santos, leaving you this quote: be happy not because everything is good, but because you can see the good side of everything. Thank you and keep safe, everyone. See you next time.